Okay. All right, so this is eTransfer 101, welcome and orientation and transfer student mixer. I'm Wes Uehara. I'm the Engineering Transfer Center Director. And I just kind of gone through the different accelerator programs. And so we're halfway through it all already, I guess a little bit more than halfway. We do have this activity, eTransfer 101, as well as the classroom boot camp that will bring us to the end of the summer before the academic year starts. So I want to kind of get through things today because if I can give back some of your time this evening, I'd like to do that. Some of the things that we're going to talk about, obviously welcome and introductions, and a little bit about the history of the ETC, as well as the why we created the eTransfer 101 sessions. There is going to be a formal registration. The one that some of you had filled out at the start of the summer is kind of our pre-registration thing, but now that we're here, I'd like to kind of gauge student interest for the different workshops because there's people who are going to be volunteering to speak to you, and I want to make sure that there's interest for those workshops before asking them to do that. Okay, then we're going to do a quick department mixer so that you can meet some of the folks in your own department. And then I'll let you know a little bit about the things that you're going to need to do between now and the next session. Okay. So a little bit about me, first of all. Again, my name is Wes Uehara. I've been with the school, UCLA Engineering, for quite some time, kind of working backwards from current. In 2018, we opened the Engineering Transfer Center with the Associate Dean, Richard Wessel. He's the Dean of Academic and Student Affairs. In 2017, I was hired as a community college outreach coordinator. Prior to that, I managed the school's engineering science core outreach programs and worked specifically on a program called Tech Camp, which provided some technical experiences for high school students. Prior to that, I was the education director for the Center for Embedded Network Sensing, which is the National Science Foundation Science and Technology Center that was headquartered here at UCLA Engineering. In this role, I did a lot of recruiting for undergraduates and graduate students, which is where some of my expertise comes into play with helping students to prepare for applying for some of those programs. Prior to that, I actually worked down south at UC Irvine as an academic counselor for the Division of Undergraduate Education. Prior to that, I went to school in University of Northern Colorado, which was a huge shift for me coming from an island state. I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, and wanted to get off the rock for school. And so I managed to attend the University of Northern Colorado. And a little bit about me is I love wandering the world, and I am not human without my coffee in the morning. So just a couple of fun facts about who I am. And I hope to get to know you guys a little bit more in the weeks and months and years to come. Okay, I'm joined by a bunch of people. And some of you who have been around with our programs have already identified or worked with these folks. But first off, Bruce, he's in electrical engineering. Dan Smith, who's in our session today. Dan is actually an alum of the accelerator program in HAC. He was also a mentor for that program. And Daniel also recently graduated. Congratulations to Daniel. And earned his undergraduate degree in computer sciences. He's going to be continuing on as a graduate student here at UCLA. We have Gigi, who is an electrical engineering student who transferred from the College of the Canyons. Kenny, chemical engineering, who transferred from UC Santa Barbara. And last but certainly not least, we have Yeni, who is a mechanical engineering student, also a transfer from UC Santa Barbara. I don't think I saw any Santa Barbara people in the chat. I think I saw a San Diego person, but all of these students are here to help you answer questions as you prepare for the fall quarter. They've all lived these experiences. And so, they're a great resource to be able to ask them, what their experiences were. And they're also here to help you in your classes. And so if any of you are taking summer session classes now, or you're brushing up on courses that you took previously at your former institution, these people are here to help. You can ask them about class schedules and professors that you should take classes with or not. And hopefully some of them will continue on through the academic year. We will have learning assistants and mentors available for our transfer students also through the academic year. So Bruce, Daniel, Gigi, Kenny, Yini, thank you very much for being with us here today. Okay, so a little bit about why we're doing all of this. And so this slide may look a little familiar, but I use it a lot to kind of help illustrate, the transfer student experience to, particularly to like a lot of administrators or donors who kind of don't really know what the story is all about, right? And so, here at UCLA Engineering, there's quite a lot of things that we're asking of our undergraduate students to do, right, over the time that they're here. And, it sort of starts off with coursework, right? Everybody needs to take the classes to learn the skills and the theory. And, for our students, we try to encourage them to try to shoot for around at least a 3.0 GPA, because that's kind of where, opportunities become available, right? When you're applying for internships or research or, wanting to apply for scholarships, being in good academic standing puts you in a position of being eligible for those kinds of things, okay? So, coursework, the theory, GPA, but on top of that, you do need to spend some time exploring, right? Because you want to be able to know, what areas get you excited, that, enough that you would want to pursue those things after graduation, right? And so, namely what I'm talking about is like, let's say you're an electrical engineering student, right? Is the area that you want to work in controls or embedded systems or communications, right? Taking some of the theory will help you to do that, but it also is helpful for you to get some hands-on experience, right? Understanding whether to be able to understand whether or not these are things that you'd like to do or that you're willing to do, right? After graduation. It also helps to provide you with some demonstrable experience that you can share with recruiters so that they can sort of gauge what your abilities are as an engineer. Okay, so there's a tremendous amount of technical experience that you can gain, which includes things like engineering student design teams. We do have the E96 design courses with in which over a 10-week period, you'll be able to actually have a technical experience that you can put on your resume and talk about. Okay. There's also academic research, which is a really great way for you to be able to see if research grad school is something that you're interested in. There's industry internships, and then there's stuff that you can do on your own. Okay. So all of these kinds of things are the items that you would want to get involved in outside of the classroom to be able to get some actual technical experience to explore the buffet line so that you know what it is that you want to pursue, right? But also to be able to become marketable for those industry internships, which often turn into job offers after graduation. Okay, there's other resume builders, and I only point this out because, I think like in addition to technical experience, you might want to show leadership, right? You might want to show civic engagements and contributing to your community and to society. Okay. We all know for clubs and student organizations, you have to be a member before you can be an officer, right? And some of these things take time. Networking is a huge thing that is pervasive in all of these areas, right? You need to talk to people about who you are, what your goals are, and where you're trying to get, right? And particularly in the engineering world, communication is so key, right? And the challenging part about this is you're going to be talking to people who may be in the next step, right? Or the next phase of your journey to becoming a professional engineer. This might be alumni or industry reps, certainly recruiters and your faculty. You're going to need to do faculty advising at least once a year, right? And so, you're going to need to find the time to be able to do these things, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to take the next step of finding and securing a job. Okay. In addition to that, right, like you'd like to have a university experience. And I hope for all of you that you get to experience being a Bruin, right? One of the things that I regret is not sort of getting involved in more collegial kind of activities when I was an undergraduate. And so, again, these things take some time to plan, to participate in, right? And you have a limited amount of that, okay? And so when you're looking at this slide, I like to use it as an illustration to help drive home the point that, for our freshman students who come as first year students, they have between the 4 and 5 years to be able to accomplish all of these things. For our transfer students, you all have 2 years to do it, okay? 2, maybe 3 years, okay? The average amount of time that it takes a transfer to graduate is about 2 years and 2 quarters, okay? But that's a lot to do, right, in a shortened amount of time. And so we want to make sure that we're providing you with access to these things and certainly an awareness of how to get involved in them, okay? So I wanted to throw some data out just to kind of give you an idea of how some of our transfer students have performed in the past. And so one of the things that I looked at when I became the transfer center director is really where are the areas that we need to provide support at. And so obviously the first thing was like, okay, how are our transfer students doing grade-wise in comparison to the students who come as first years, okay? And I was really pleased to see that when taking a snapshot of the first quarter of our incoming transfer students and comparing it with the 7th quarter of our first year students, so we're trying to take a snapshot of similar courses, right? That our transfer students perform within 100th of a grade point of our freshman admit students, okay? And so of course this varies from year to year and it varies from major to major. You can see down here in the material science and engineering, the transfer GPA was really low. This is probably because Matt Sci has the smallest amount of engineering transfer students. There's probably like 3 people. And if there's one student who bombed that quarter, then they really impact the transfer GPA, okay? Now, without going into too much detail, the experience I have working with transfer students tells me that in order to earn these GPAs, our transfer students go through quite a bit in their first year to be able to earn these GPAs, okay? But that's another story. We can talk about that and how we can help with regard to it. This next table is the more compelling one. And this is where like I'm really trying to work with the school to try to change, right? And so we look at senior exit survey data. And so when you graduate, in order to get your tickets for commencement, you have to fill out the senior exit survey data. So it's pretty, like we get over 95% response rate to this survey. So this is a good, representation of the students who are graduating, okay? And so I look at some of the extracurricular activities that really correlate to, trajectory after graduation. So, the first place we looked at the number of undergraduates who are doing academic research, okay? And the percentages of transfer students and to first year students, they're around the same. There's only about a 5% difference, okay? Similarly, heading to graduate school, right? There's only a 2% difference in the amount of the percentage of transfer students and first year students going to graduate school. This is the area that I want to change, okay? And so with the industry internships, we largely know that the way it ideally works is you go off and you do an industry internship and you do such a great job and you impress the people that you're working with that they'll say to you, hey, you got an additional year of school, go and finish school, but come back and work for us after graduation, okay? And so, we're looking at a 39% difference between the first year students and the transfer students, okay? And so I want this number to be much, much less, okay? Because it also correlates to the job offer at graduation. And with, there being a difference of 21% between the transfer student and the first year student, okay? When you think about this, right, in correlation to the 2 years that you have, it sort of makes sense, right? And so it's very important over these next 2 years that you're making some smart decisions about getting involved in these extracurricular activities so that, there's something for you after graduation, okay, to make this degree work for you after graduation in a manner of sense. Before I move on from this, I'm not sure, I want to be able to answer any questions that you guys might have or concerns that you might have over this. Okay, no questions. All right, so I'm going to move forward. And so these are primarily the reasons why we've created eTransfer 101, right? When I first started working with the community, the transfer students here at UCLA, first and foremost, the biggest feedback that I received from almost all engineering transfer students was, hey, my head spun. In year one, like things came at me and I didn't have time to prepare, right? And for many of the students, they missed the boat because, they had to make some hard choices with the limited amount of time that they had, in the 10-week quarter. Okay. And so this has sort of been my experience in working with some of the engineering transfers. I'm going to kind of mentally walk you through kind of a generic, like, experience for transfer students in quarter one. And, welcome week, everything is new. There's a lot to get involved with in engineering. The school and the deans are encouraging you to get involved with, and everything is going to sound compelling. Like you have to do everything. But I'm here to say, you're not going to have time to do everything. Okay. So you're going to have to pick and choose the things that you get involved with. Okay. Week one, you're going to enter your first classes and you're going to realize that it's really, really hard to see who the other transfer students. And that's why I'm so glad that you guys are here, because hopefully you'll be able to identify some other transfer students and recognize each other in the classroom. Okay. In addition to that, there's going to be a lot of stuff that they didn't cover in orientation, or maybe you've forgotten since orientation. Things like different online systems. You're going to find that, like here at UCLA, there's the online systems that are managed by campus, like my UCLA. And then engineering has its own online systems, like my engineering. Okay. And so you'll need to get to learn all of that. We just transitioned our learning environments to something called Brew and Learn, from the old CCLE systems. And so there's things that you're going to need to spend some time ramping up to get to know. Okay. In week two, this is a really common thing, particularly, for our transfer students, that a professor referenced something that you need to know, right? That the expectation is that you know that topic, because they're going to build upon that. And for some of our transfer students, the class that they're referencing may have been something that you took 2 or 3 years ago, right? Or perhaps, in the kerfuffle of instructors trying to teach to, the numerous amount of articulation agreements for, however for your institutions there are across the state of California, that, they covered in a different way, right? In week three, that's when our engineering and technical career fair is, and there's a great deal of effort that goes into preparing for recruiting. And each of you are going to have to make the decision of, or manage, or figure out how you're going to be able to prepare for those recruiting activities, as well as prepare for your first set of midterms, which will come in week 3 or 4. Okay. And I just kind of want to point out that I'm kind of talking about this. And as I do, if you come up with questions, please jot them down, because we're going to be talking about a lot of these topics through eTransfer 101. And there's going to be a lot of undergraduate students, returning undergraduate students, who can give you information about their own experiences. Okay. In week 4, this is really common. All of our incoming transfer students are spectacular GPA, have spectacular GPAs. I think this past year, the lowest GPA we admitted was something like a 3.79. Okay. This quarter, this coming fall quarter, could quite possibly be the first quarter that you don't get an A in all of your classes. Okay. And typically what happens when a transfer student gets their first midterm score back and realizes, whoa, I got a 30 out of 100, right? They freak out, they recoil from everything, and their focus is completely on their classes, okay? Now, rest assured, that's a raw score, and a lot of our engineering classes are curved, okay? But it's difficult to not feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, right? When you get such a low grade, okay? So we'll kind of talk a little bit about that, particularly in the next session when we have our eTransfer student panel, to kind of talk about, what grades really are like and how to interpret all of that, okay? week 6, could quite possibly be your next set of midterms. And that can be challenging because, that's also when you're going to start registering for your spring quarter classes, or excuse me, your winter quarter classes, right? And in week 6, you're likely going to feel a little bit of frustration because you don't know what to enroll in for the winter because you don't know how you're going to perform in your fall quarter classes, okay? Week 7 is Thanksgiving. Week 8 is what I like to call the black hole, because that's when like I send stuff out to transfer students and I hear nothing back, right? It's like total crickets because everybody is fixated and really prioritizing their performance in their classes, right? And dealing with all of that, okay? Rest assured, in week 10, like I try to put out a feeler, a carrot out there to get people to come in and tell me how they're doing. We have a study break, we have cookies at the center. So it's a good way to get a quick break and then also to check in with me and the other staff, okay? But 10 weeks goes by really, really quick. And then in the winter quarter, it starts all over again, right? And particularly in the winter quarter, it's when you should start applying for summer research position, paid summer research positions. Okay, so there's a lot to do in the weeks of each of the quarters, right? And so as you can kind of get a feel for this now, you're going to be living this, in a few months, and you're going to have to make some decisions on how to prioritize your time. Okay. But we are here to help, and part of that is eTransfer 101. Okay, so kind of the outcomes of these workshops is obviously for you guys to get to know each other as well as the staff. We're gonna tell you about important dates and deadlines so you can plan out your calendar, and you're gonna need to do that, right? Part of being a successful engineering student is really being able to compartmentalize your time and be able to, dedicate the time that you need to be able to do the things to get the outcomes that you want, okay? We also want to share with you about all of the different opportunities and when they come during the year so that you can decide what you want to get involved with, okay? And then a big portion of eTransfer 101 is about preparing for your fall recruiting, right? Practice speaking about yourself as a budding engineer, putting together your engineering resume and your other artifacts, and then getting the skinny from our students on how to do it all, right? And so that's a little bit of what the focus and the outcomes of eTransfer 101 are, okay? So these are all of the different sessions that are part of eTransfer 101. And I'm going to go through each one with a little bit more detail with the hope of being able to explain why we're doing it and what you should get out of it, okay? So I'm going to put, I'm going to put this into the chat. I can get it. There you go. And I'm going to encourage everyone to follow along. Just let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Yes, I'm still on that. Okay, so the first thing to note is that this is the participant site. This isn't a public site. And so I will have this on the slide at the end, but you want to bookmark this website because it's not public, okay? All right, so we're right now attending or hosting this welcome and overview with the Transfer Student Mixer. The next session is going to be on Wednesday, August 3rd, and maybe I should take a moment to look at the chat to see if there's any questions here. So Kenny, were you able to respond to Brandon's question?
Yeah, I've already responded.
Okay. So Mohammed asks, will the eTransfer 101 talk about the clubs which are available for the students? Yes, we do have a session that's dedicated to student organizations. We're not planning to bring in all of the student organizations, but we will tell you where you can get information about all of the organizations. I'll sort of explain as I go through the website of what we're doing with the student organization session. Okay. There was not one this past Saturday. Today is the first eTransfer 101 session. Okay, all right. One new message. Okay. All right. So back to the website. Can you give me a thumbs up that you can see the website? I'm sharing that on my screen. Great, thank you. Okay, all right. So the next session on Wednesday, August 3rd is going to be it's going to be our eTransfer student panel discussion and our pathways guide for eTransfers. Okay, so the first thing that we're doing is we're bringing in some returning engineering transfer students, and this is your opportunity to ask them all your questions, right? About grades, about professors, about the experience, about what to expect, about sort of like any self-learning you need to do for courses, what kinds of things to avoid, come prepared with your questions. I think what I want to say is up until now, a lot of our sessions were really focused at trying to recruit students who applied and were admitted. Now it's about preparing you, right, to be aware of what to expect in your first year, okay? And so, think of the questions that you have, write them down and bring them with you and ask our returning transfer students those questions, okay? The Pathways Guide is a week by week, quarter by quarter guide on what to expect, okay? And so there's important deadlines. We've included in it all of the different opportunities that there may be. You're going to find out that in the fall, it's all about applying for industry internships. That continues into the winter, but is less sort of active because they've already made some offers to people. In the winter quarter, it's all about applying for academic research, and I'm going to tell you why you might want to do that, even though you're not really interested in going to graduate school. But this is your way to be able to see what year one is going to look like, and you might be able to calendar things in, put things into your calendar based on what it is that you want to get involved with. Okay. You're going to notice on the website that there's some homework that's assigned. Okay, and so I'm working on with the undergraduate internship and research program director for some recorded video footage, because a lot of times for these sessions, what we'd like to do is to provide you, we're kind of doing it like a flipped classroom where we're providing you the content ahead of time so that you can watch it. And so that when you come to these sessions, it's more about Q&A. And then also like for next week's, the following workshop, you're going to see that we're going to do a resume review. Okay, but we can't do the resume review if you don't create your resume before you come, okay, and watch the recorded footage. Okay, so on August 5th, we're going to focus a little bit on fall recruiting, and you'll be able to watch some recorded footage on creating your engineering tailored resume, and the importance of having technical experience on that resume. There's also video on creating your LinkedIn account. And then the second half of that workshop is going to be, the first part will also include some Q&A. We do have an undergraduate internship program here in the School of Engineering. The director of that program's name is Will Herrera, and it's his job to help our students to connect with industry internships. And he has all kinds of resources from drop-in advising to actually some courses that you might be able to take to better prepare yourself to secure that industry internship. Okay. The second part of that session is going to be a resume review workshop, and you need to come prepared with your resume because we're going to spend some time helping each other to improve on that resume. And the idea with this is to get a big bulk of that work done now, and so that in the fall you can attend a drop-in advising to really tailor that resume and get it prepared for the fall recruiting activities. Okay. The next session is on Monday, August 8th, and we are going to have the assistant director from the Career Center come and talk about all of the different resources that's available. We're also going to have our students register for their UCLA Handshake account. That's kind of the portal to all Career Center activities, resources, including the Engineering and Technical Career Fair. And the second part of that session will be a student panel on fall recruiting. Okay, and so the Career Center will tell you about what they have planned. And then our students are going to tell you about what it's like and how to prepare and what to do. Okay. And so that's how we're going to divide up that session. Okay. The next session on Tuesday, August 9th is all about research. And so we're really fortunate that we were able to have a panel of students who participate in the summer undergraduate research program come and talk about their research and what they're doing after participating in that program. Okay. And so along with our undergraduates, there will be a couple of graduate students who will talk about the process and the transition they made into graduate school. And so this is a really great panel for anybody who's interested in participating in academic research, and particularly for any of you who are interested in going into graduate school. Okay. After that panel discussion, then the director of the undergraduate research program, also Will Herrera, will be there to answer any questions that you may have. Again, with research, Will has classes that you can take that can help you to secure academic research, as well as to support you through the process, as you join a lab. Okay. So this will happen on Tuesday, August 9th. This is a change from the original calendar. And the reason for the change is because the panel was scheduled for August 9th. And I think that that would be a tremendous resource to all of the students interested in doing academic research. And so we made the decision so that you could participate in it to switch the day to Tuesday, August 9th. Okay, so that is a change from the original calendar. The next eTransfer 101 session is Networking 101. As I mentioned, you'll need to spend a decent amount of your time over the next years networking, right? Whether that be talking to a recruiter or talking to a faculty advisor, or getting stuck in an elevator and wanting to talk to someone, about what it is that you want to do. Networking can be an intimidating thing, and we want to kind of take some of the demystify that a little bit and provide you with some actual, things that you can do to prepare for a networking opportunity. Okay. And so we're going to give you some nuts and bolts for that. That'll be Friday, August 12th. The important thing to mention about Networking 101 is that it is a prerequisite to being able to participate in networking practice with our alumni and industry. Okay. We already do have a number of people who are working in our industry, with our industry partners that are going to be coming to provide you an opportunity to practice speaking about yourself as an engineer before, hitting the fall recruiting events. Okay. Because they're giving up their time, it is really important that, you're doing your due diligence to prepare for that. And so they've asked that only people who participate in the Networking 101 session be invited to participate in the networking practice. Okay. The next session on Monday, August 15th is the Engineering Student Organization Nuts, Bolts, and Opportunities. We have a number of student leaders from our engineering organizations who are coming. First and foremost, they want to talk a little bit about their org, but more importantly, I think they want to share why they feel like getting involved in the student organizations is valuable. Okay, and so you're going to hear some testimony from them on what they got out of participating with engineering student organization. Okay. On Wednesday, August 17th, we're going to talk about ABCs of faculty advising, which all of you are required to do. Just want to give you a couple of pointers as to how you can maximize that opportunity. We also have Andrew Bottom from the Global Internship Program, who's going to talk about how you can get involved in that. Okay. eTransfer 101 will conclude its summer activities with networking practice, again, with the alumni and industry reps. That'll be on Thursday, August 18th. And again, this is by invitation only for those who did participate in the Networking 101 session on August 12th. Okay. The academic year will continue with programs and events and support for our engineering transfer students. The one that I want to mention now is our fall welcome. And while we're virtual currently, the fall welcome will be your opportunity to meet everyone face to face before the quarter begins. Okay. All right. Are there any questions about the sessions?
It mentions a recorded video for the LinkedIn and resume.
Yeah, so that will be going live on the website shortly.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for asking. Okay, some just brief expectations over eTransfer 101. I do ask that everybody arrive on time and ready to participate. As I mentioned, a lot of these are interactive with people who are coming to answer any of your questions. There are some that are going to be more workshop based where we're actually doing something, and it's really difficult to be able to add somebody into a breakout room and give them instructions if they come late. So please arrive on time and ready to participate. We would like to ask that you keep your cameras on when possible. This activity is about also us getting to know one another, and can't do that, or it's better to do that when we can have our cameras on. But as such, you want to make sure that the field of view on your camera is appropriate. There will be a sign-in sheet at the start of the session. I'm going to ask that you guys sign in. I will figure that out, why it's not working today. I'm going to ask our attendees to help me to remember to record the sessions, because with all that's going on my screen, sometimes I forget to hit the record button. Most of your homework for eTransfer 101 is to just come prepared to ask questions. And so as you go about your day, if you think of something, jot it down so that you're prepared to ask your questions when you come. But I do ask that you take a look at the website to know, if there are specific homework assignments that go beyond, preparing questions to ask. Okay. During the Q&A sessions, I would like to ask that you try to vocalize your questions, just because as a moderator, it's so much easier if people would vocalize rather than having to look at your slide set and the chat box and whatnot. And so let's help our speakers out by vocalizing our questions. And then I'm also going to be providing a feedback survey after each session, just to kind of gauge, what the value of it is, and also, mechanisms to be able to improve it for next year. So we'll be providing you a feedback survey after each one of the sessions. It'll be real short, but if you can make sure to fill that out. Again, just a reminder that only those who attend the Networking 101 session will be invited to participate in networking practice. All of the Zoom session links are available on the participant site, with the exception, again, of the networking practice. Okay. So with that, I want to ask for everyone to go ahead and register for the sessions that you would like to attend. But before you do that, make sure that you check your calendar and know that you are able to attend those sessions. There is some work that goes into preparing these sessions for all of you. And if there isn't interest for one in particular, I would hate to ask, a presenter to go through the work of preparing something. So I do ask that you go ahead and click that link and go ahead and register for the sessions that you would like to attend. I'll give you a few moments to do that. And then we'll move on to the next thing.
Is this the same form as the one I saw June?
So, so the form, it probably looks the same, but it is not. And so we did have that as a part of the registration in June, but now that we're here, I'd like to ask you to go ahead and please re-register for the sessions that you'd like to attend, because I think for some of the students, a lot has changed regarding, with regard to availability since then. And if you, while you're doing that, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna give everybody a couple minutes to do that. Go ahead and feel free to ask me any questions, either unmute or put it in the chat.
Well, I asked a question in the chat, actually. Oh, sorry.
Kian, was that you?
Yeah.
just go ahead and register for the ones that, you know, I mean, you can't predict, right? So just register for the
Right.
ones that you want to go to.
Okay, thanks.
David, you private messaged me. Is there a problem with the form?
Not necessarily a problem, but they're checkboxes and not multiple choice, so someone could
Oh
register
gosh.
and not register.
Okay, well, please don't do that, guys. I'm recording. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I'd like you to do when you go to your breakout rooms. Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself first of all. Share your name, your major, your transfer institution. It might be helpful for others to know if you attended orientation yet, because what I'd like you guys to do if you have is to try to find somebody who is going to be taking a course that you'll be taking in the fall quarter. Okay, for those of you who didn't attend orientation yet, you might not be able to do that. But it is one of the things that I'd like to hope that you guys will do before the start of the fall is to connect with somebody who is taking your class in the fall quarter, okay? Regardless of that, I do want to invite everybody to join our ETC Discord server. What we've done in the server is we've created specific channels for you to connect with other transfer students in your major. And so you can see here, the first one is, well, not the first one. The first one is bioengineering here. And so there's classroom help, there's connecting with other bioengineering students, opportunities in BioE, and then there's a homework. This is a live chat. Okay, so what I'd like you guys to do is once you guys do your introductions is to go ahead and join the ETC Discord server. This link here that I put into the chat actually connects you with the landing page because you have to agree to kind of the rules of engagement for the ETC server. And then you need to identify by your major by choosing the right emoji, which will then provide you access to the department channels. Okay, hopefully that made sense, but go to the landing page, accept the rules of engagement, and then select the right emoji so that you can access the departments. And mentors, I'm going to ask you to please provide assistance with that if any of the students have difficulty with it. Okay, and then once you're in the ETC Discord server, I would like for you, I have some instructions here. It says, welcome 2022 eTransfer 101 students. Please say hi to others by sharing your name, transfer institution, and the first thing you're going to do when you get to campus in the fall, okay? And the reason for this is because I'd like you guys to be able to stay connected even beyond today's session. In the next weeks and approaching fall, I'm going to bet that you will have some questions that you have or you want to pose to other people. Already there's some questions about classes. There's some of you who have had orientation and are asking about classes to enroll in and whatnot. And this is a really great way for you to be able to get some response or some feedback to your questions, okay? In addition to that, I am on here as well as your learning assistant and mentors. And there are chats here, excuse me, channels where you can visit our learning assistants during their office hours to ask questions or get some homework support. Okay, and so the idea with this is to join the ETC Discord server now and to continue using that through the academic year. Okay, so before I open up the breakout rooms, are there any questions about what we're hoping that you'll do in the breakout session? Okay, I'm going to open up all the rooms and you should feel free to join the appropriate room. Mentors do the same, and I will stick here to answer any questions that you have.
I have a quick question. Do I go to the electrical and computer engineering?
Jennifer, remind me, you are what again? What's your major?
Computer engineering.
Yeah, so that's electrical.
Okay, just making